What's up, guys? This is the Honest Outlaw here, and today we're going to be talking about the underdogs. We're going to be talking about the guns that have been getting it done for a long time and not getting any cred. These guns have been proven to be effective home defense weapons, effective hunting weapons, and effective just for having fun as well. Now, before we get into the video, I do want to mention my patron supporters. My patron supporters make these videos possible, and I cannot appreciate those guys enough. If you want to join the patron squad, we have exclusive content and some cool other stuff going on the patron page. All you got to do is go down to the link in the description and sign up. Also in that description is a link to a local youth shelter that I like to support in Ames, Iowa. Those kids could really use your support, and I would really appreciate if you go down there and click that link. And lastly, there's a link to some t-shirts if you want to get some Honest Outlaw swag, and there's a link to the Gundies, which is an online award that I've been nominated for. I've been nominated for Best Shooter and Best Gun Reviewer, and I'd really love to win those, so if you like the channel, please go down and vote for me. So let's get right into it with number 5. We're going to be talking about revolvers. A revolver is a type of firearm that is not covered very much on my channel, but I've been getting into a lot lately. The reason for that is if you go to a gun store in 2020, you're not going to find much else besides revolvers. So overall, it's a gun that's available currently if you're getting into firearms, if you're new to firearms right now. This isn't a bad one to get into considering not only are they available, but they're also relatively affordable. The revolver has a lot of pros over the semi-auto, believe it or not. Overall, as far as military and law enforcement, they've been arguably completely phased out in turn for semi-autos because semi-autos have a lot of advantages. Don't get me wrong. You see predominantly semi-autos on the channel because that's what I like, but revolvers certainly have their place and they're certainly underestimated. Most of my friends, at least my age or younger, have never even touched one of these things, let alone had a lot of trigger time on them to really understand that there are certain niches that this gun really excels in even over a semi-auto. I'll give you an example. If you try to find a semi-auto that could run 2 different ammunitions, you're going to be hard-pressed to find that, especially without a conversion kit. This 357 can also run 38 special, which allows you to get 2 different types of ammunition in one gun. So if you can't find 357, you can run 38. If your wife doesn't like a lot of recoil, you can run 38. If you want to, I don't know, hunt anything in North America with a handgun, you can pretty much do that with 357. Overall, it gives you a lot of versatility. If you're looking for a gun that works well for a pocket or a purse or something like that, and hammerless airweight 357 38 special works really, really well. Doesn't have any hammer to snag on, and revolvers actually work really well inside clothing, inside entanglements. No slide there reciprocating, so there isn't a lot that can go wrong with it. If you're shooting inside a pocket, hopefully you don't, but if you have to, a revolver is a really good option for that particular niche. Revolvers only carry 6 rounds, although this one carries 7, and many actually carry 8. The reason why people don't like it is because they're very slow to reload. Well, the good thing about it is, especially for new people, they're very easy to reload as well. No need to try to fight a heavy magazine spring, especially if you're elderly or you're younger and you have weaker fingers. You can simply just drop those rounds right into the cylinder and then close the cylinder and you're off to the races. A revolver has a single or double action capability. So it's safe to carry in its double action capacity for a few reasons. Number one, you have that long, heavy trigger pull that acts as a safety. Because of that long double action trigger pull, you can really work on marksmanship. If you throw a bunch of snap caps in here and you dry fire at your house, you will find that working on that double action trigger pull over and over again without disturbing your sight picture will really increase your marksmanship on the range. Another advantage to this is it's legal where semi-autos are not. If you're in one of those states where it's very difficult to get a semi-auto or near impossible, revolvers are not only available and affordable, but they're easy for you to acquire as well. All right, so now we'll try the double action at about 50 yards or so. Got a good one going on, and we'll see how we do. Six for 6 is not so bad. I thought revolvers and double action were inaccurate. I thought that's what the internet told me. Couldn't quite possibly be that the internet's wrong. It's almost like it's up to the shooter. Another gun we're going to be talking about that I previously reviewed that I don't actually have on the table here to show you is a Mini 14. The Ruger Mini 14 is a 16-inch semi-automatic rifle chambered in 5.56. An alternative to an AR-15, particularly when you can't get an AR-15 in your area, or maybe you want something with a little bit more style, or maybe you're just a big A-Team fan. They're going to be very accurate, they're going to be very reliable, and they're going to be very quick. Chambered in the same exact round that's AR-15, not only is it easy to buy, you can find it pretty much anywhere, except for maybe 2020. 5.56 is a small round that is moving really quickly, does a really good job at stretching those organs and creating those temporal cavities that pistols won't. So even though it has very little recoil and it's really easy to shoot, it is significantly more effective than pistol rounds are. Really great ranch rifle or a really great home defense rifle, especially if you want to get something that's easy to shoot from the shoulder. If you're considering a rifle, consider the fact that even if you're new, more points of contact is always better, and under stressful situations, it's much easier to intuitively point a rifle, making the Mini 14 a really formidable weapon up close. So it has the benefit of being legal in places an AR-15's not, and it also looks really cool as well. Been in lots of movies. If you want to put a collapsible stock on it, if you want to throw a red dot on it, all those options are available. You want to put a light on it, you can get Mini 14s ready to go just like that, or you can buy accessories like an Ultimac rail and throw it on there. Now at number 3 here, while I have it in my hand, semi-automatic 22 rifles. I get a lot of flack every time I mention a 22 rifle for home defense, but the reality is this is commonly what people have. If you have one gun, it's not uncommon just to have a 22 rifle. They are very, very versatile platforms. Now, if you talk to any tactical dude, any tactical Tom out there, they're going to tell you that a 22 is not enough power to incapacitate a person. Statistics would argue differently. Obviously, it's not ideal. It's not going to be as good as a shotgun or an AR-15 or something like that. However, shot placement is very key. You can get these in very reliable 30-round magazines, and you can shoot them extremely quickly. Within 10 to 15 yards, the size of an average house, 30 rounds of 22 put in the right spot is going to do the job. Moreover, the ammunition is extremely cheap most of the time, and extremely available and extremely lightweight. The platform is actually extremely lightweight as well. This is actually a kind of a custom 1022 here, and it's got a Hogue overmolded stock on it, and it is very light. It's coming in around 4 pounds with a 30-round capacity and the ability to mount a red dot or a scope. I go back and forth, which is why there's nothing on it right now. It has enough power to do the job. The ammunition is really cheap, and on top of that, it's a really good gun to take first-time or newer shooters out, or even experienced shooters that don't want to waste a lot of ammo, or they don't want to deal with a lot of recoil. So don't overestimate the power of the 22, but don't underestimate it either. There has been a lot of large animals taken from guns like these with really good shot placement. Now, I say don't overestimate it because everybody's got that weird uncle or that crazy guy at the bar that tells you that he shot an elk in the eye with a 22 pistol, that kind of thing. Don't listen to those people, but the reality is the shot placement does matter. I would certainly have never met any person that would stand in front of one of these willingly, so overall, I think they're a very effective gun for what they are. This is the M&P 22. This is one of the first 22s I've ever owned. I've had it for years. I've customized it a ton, back and forth, left and right, and it's got a couple real interesting things on it that are test beds for future reviews, so don't take this as like something I would use for home defense. And this is kind of what I wanted to talk about. If I was going to pick a 22 rifle for home defense, it would be the Smith & Wesson 22 here, simply because of the reliability that I've had over the years and the familiar ergonomics for me to an AR-15, which is the most likely rifle that I shoot. It's the most common rifle that I shoot. So overall, I like this gun. I like it a little bit more than the Ruger 1022 just because of the familiar ergonomics and because of the overall reliability. It also has a bit of a scare factor as well. If you were using it in a home defense situation, it's not going to be as loud or as effective as an AR-15. However, if this was all you had, you could make it work. It is really quick and really easy to control up close, and you can fire rounds very quickly and hopefully incapacitate or scare the threat enough to where he gets out of your house, which is kind of the point.
It's a happy sounding gun.
Yeah, so 22s are really easy to shoot. They're a good starter gun for most people, and like I said, this is one of those lists where it's not the perfect gun, but it is a good gun for most jobs, and most people have a 22 rifle, and if you had somebody break in your house and you had to use it, it's better than a pointy stick any day of the week. At number 2, we have the 20 gauge shotgun. And I wanted to bring out the Shockwave here because it is also an underestimated platform that was kind of in the mix. Every time I see a review of one of these, most of the time people talk about how inaccurate and how unuseful they are in real life. All you have to do is hold these steady and really work on your marksmanship and get the rounds on target. Every deer hunter I've ever talked to, they always think 20 gauge is meant for youth shotguns. If you get over 14 years old, you're not supposed to use a 20 gauge anymore. You can shoot a 12 gauge, you can shoot a 20 gauge quicker. A 20 gauge has the power, not as much power as the 12 gauge, but it has enough power to drop almost any threat in North America. Slugs, buckshot, and birdshot all available, making it an extremely versatile platform, just like the 12 gauge. So you're able to use it for home defense, plinking, competition. Yes, you can use 20 gauge in competition, and you can even use it for hunting, whether that be bird hunting in the sky, or whether that be deer hunting, or whether that be going after a bear. 20 gauge has enough power to do the job, especially when you're considering shot placement. Consider the fact that 20 gauge buckshot, those pellets coming out of there have about the same power as 6 45 rounds hitting you at the exact same time. Moreover, 20 gauge is also very available. You can find 20 gauge in almost any Walmart or any store that you go into, any big box store that sells ammunition. And on top of that, especially if you have somebody shooting like my wife, who's a little bit smaller statured than me, 20 gauge is just an easier round to get into a shotgun and get accustomed to bracing yourself for that recoil. And the more fun the gun is, the more likely they are to shoot it. Instead of getting somebody into a 12 gauge right off the bat, maybe a 20 gauge is a better option, getting them to fall in love with that gun, and then maybe you can move them up to a bigger caliber later in the day. However, if all you have is a 20 gauge shotgun, a pump shotgun, even a double barreled shotgun, that can be an extremely effective, not only hunting tool, but self-defense tool, as long as you know how to use it. This is the Chiappa Triple Threat. This is a triple barreled shotgun. This is in 20 gauge, and overall I think it's a really cool sort of steampunk option. It's really neat, it's fun, and it's really fun to shoot, and it's extremely effective. 3 18-inch barrels makes it legal in a lot of places where a pump or a semi-auto would not be, but instead of one shot like a traditional break action or a double barrel, you actually have 3 rounds in the gun. And overall, I was worried about the weight of the barrel, but it's really lightweight, really easy to use. If you have small children in the house or a wife or something like that who's recoil shy, this is a good way to get them into a shotgun. And if you happen to have more than one person breaking into the house, you got 3 shots, you can spread the love. 20 gauge comes in almost as many flavors as the 12 gauge does. You can get number 8 bird shot, you can get double BB, you can get number 2, whatever type of waterfowl you're looking for, you can hunt with a 20 gauge. On top of that, you can use rifle slugs, sabot slugs, whatever you want to use. You want to use dragon's breath, you want to use saw blades. They probably have cream filled ones if you're hungry. Overall, I think that the 20 gauge is one of the most versatile platforms that exist in the firearms industry, even more so over the 12 gauge, considering that smaller statured or recoil sensitive people can also use this effectively.
I'm out.
All right, so before we get to number 1 here, I want to talk about some honorable mentions, ones that almost made it, but not quite. First, I want to talk about the 1911. It's my personal favorite gun, but it gets underestimated constantly because of its capacity and because of its old age. However, the 1911 is an extremely reliable and accurate platform when purchased from the right company and used by the right person. Also want to mention the M1A. The M1A is a similar platform to the Mini 14. It actually came before it. The M1A is a .308 caliber semi-automatic rifle based off the M1 Grand. So now I want to mention number 1. And number 1 is a gun that I get flack on this channel a lot for. If I see some rude comments, it's commonly about the lever action platform. I've actually seen a lot of videos lately about how much the lever action sucks. And that makes me so sad. because the lever actions have been around since I think 1860 with the Henry. 1860 Henry might not have been the first one, but it was the first one used widely. And then after that, the 1873, the 1894, there's been a ton of extremely successful lever action firearms from Marlin, from Henry, from Winchester, and from many other companies as well, like Rossi. Not only have they been around for a long time, but they're still kicking today, and I'll tell you why. They're underestimated because of the way they look. They look like antiques and they look like they're not useful at all. But the reality is this one here is a 357-38 special that holds something like 18 rounds. On top of that, the lever action platform is actually really easy and really intuitive to use. It's really common for me to hand this gun to somebody and they already know how to lever the gun and they already know how to fire the gun. Because of the lever action, because of single action design, it also has a really crisp and really accurate trigger system in it. As you can see there, the trigger does not take much to pull, which allows that accuracy to be bumped up a notch. One of the downsides to the lever action is that its capacity is dependent upon its barrel length. So if you're looking for that 16, 18 round capacity, you're gonna have to get a longer barrel. I think this one's got like a 22, 24 inch barrel, something like that. They do make 16 inch barrels. I think my 16 inch carbine Winchester 1873 still holds something like 14 rounds of 357 Magnum. They also are chambered in rounds like 30-30 and 44 Magnum. If you're looking to go big time, my Marlin 30-30 again can drop anything in North America without any issue, and that includes anybody that comes in your house that you don't want them to be there. The lever action is constantly underestimated again because of its capacity and because you actually have to do something to make the gun fire instead of pull the trigger over and over again. Now, while I can say for a fact that I would prefer semi-auto, a lever action would not be difficult to learn on, especially if it was the only thing legal in your area or the only thing available in your gun store. Another reason why I wanted to add this is because everybody's been asking me what gun they should get lately for home defense. A lever action is a really good way to go. Number one, because they don't look very intimidating to like a judge or a jury or to those friends that don't like guns when they come over, but they also have a cool classic look that you can just throw up on your mantelpiece if you want. And on top of that, they're still extremely effective and extremely quick up close, firing a very capable caliber. They also happen to be very reliable, very time tested. Many people have met their end to a lever action rifle, especially over the past 150 years. These have served in lots of military conflicts, and overall I would consider them one of the most time tested and one of the most easy to use rifles on the market, even to this day. Just like the revolver, these can use multiple types of ammunition. If you get one in 357, you can bump it up for hunting purposes or home defense purposes, and then you can bump it down for plinking purposes and shoot a little bit cheaper with a little less recoil. And the best part is most of them are affordable. This Rossi here comes in right around $500, and you can find them anywhere from $500 to $1,500 if you're looking for a Winchester 1873 or something like that. But overall, it doesn't take a lot of money to get into a quality lever action rifle. And if you live in a state like Connecticut, Massachusetts, California, New York, stuff like that, and you're not able to get a semi-automatic rifle like even a Mini 14 for home defense, a lever action will do the job in a pinch. I promise you that. This is the Winchester 1873. It is one of my favorite rifles of all time, and if I was in something like a banned state where I couldn't get an AR-15 or an AK, this would be probably my top choice for a ranch rifle or home defense gun. Number one, it looks really cool. Number two, it's not overly intimidating. If you had to go into a courtroom and be judged by a jury, it would look a little less tactical, which is kind of nice as well. But mainly it's because it's still extremely effective. This is one of the guns that won the West. The 1873 is one of the first successful repeating rifles ever made. The Henry 1860 comes to mind, the Winchester 94, there's a few others as well, but the 1873 is really one of the first guns that put continuous fire down range with anywhere from a 10 to 20 magazine capacity, depending on how long your barrel length is. That's how long of a magazine tube you have. So the longer barrel, the more capacity. The shorter barrel, the easier it is to move around structures. This is actually a 16-inch 357 Magnum. You can fit 12 rounds of 357 Magnum in here, and you can fire as quickly as you can fan the lever there. Now, one of the nice things about a lever action is lots of people see them in movies, so they're really intuitive to use. Simply just load them in the loading gate, rack the handle, and it goes. So even though it is almost 150 years old, it is still extremely effective as a home defense tool, as a ranch rifle, and just having a lot of fun too. Another thing you can do is hang it up on your mantelpiece like I do, because this is one of the guns I have hanging up above my TV because I love it so much. It's got good history. It works really well. The only real downside to these guns is even though they do run 2 different types of ammunition, they can be a little bit finicky, especially with certain types of 38 Special. So if you're gonna run 38 Special for home defense, I would be very careful in your ammunition choice, and I'd make sure it's an ammo that the gun likes a lot. Whereas 357, it's gonna run a little bit more effective since that's really what it's designed for. If I was gonna use one of these for home defense, I would just use probably 357 with some sort of ballistic tip, like from Hornady or something like that. I really like Hornady ammunition, so that's probably what I'd run. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Please help out your local homeless shelters, and remember to recycle. I'll check you later.